today, at least in the United States, or the day that this episode originally is airing on, I know some people will watch it after the fact, is Father's Day. And so it's a day that we celebrate our fathers or father figures or our family members, or, everybody kind of takes their own take on what to do on Father's Day. I'm wearing my special Father's Day shirt to indicate my role in my relationship with my father there. So, our article, then we thought we would do some family style, right? We'll have some nonprofits family style today. And so this is an article that I found in lifehacker.com, which is kind of hit or miss. They have some good things and they have some less good things. This is one of their better reviews here. It's from lifehacker.com, and it was written by Meredith Dietz, and it's from January of this year. And the title of the article is How to Come Out as an Atheist Without Destroying Your Relationships. And I hear this subject come up fairly often on some of the other ACA shows. Many times, being an atheist can be isolating. You can feel separated from, there can be a distance there with your family. And so many of us want to live our own truths, be our authentic selves, and so on. And so that's why, I think this one caught my eye. It can be very stressful to share something about yourself with your family members, thinking that they might be judgmental. Maybe they'll start viewing you differently. They might even want to change the relationship or cut off contact entirely. So it can be a very touchy issue. And so people are often wondering, how do we do that? Some of the most heartbreaking calls come especially from youth that have come out to their parents and have had issues. I've seen people in my own life, friends of my kids, that are coming out to their parents and then are just being rejected, just being thrown off. And that can be of course, very traumatic for the person involved, but it can be very heartbreaking for those of us who want to be supportive to those kind of people. In this article, they summarized the book from atheist activist Greta Christina. I believe she's been on the Atheist Experience before and has actually spoken, was one of the speakers at the Bat Cruise one year. And she has a book called Coming Out Atheist, How to Do It, How to Help Each Other, and Why. And she's written several other books on atheist culture. And in the article, they took out some snippets, some of the best parts. And so I'm going to give you 8 points that were brought up in the article that were taken from Greta's book. And I want to encourage any of the panelists, if any of these tips kind of spark a little story in your mind, just feel free to jump in, and then we'll go on that. So the first thing they said, by the way, before we even look at these 8 things, and I know hosts of the other ACA shows often say things like, make sure that you're safe. Your safety is of primary importance. Don't feel like you need to force yourself to come out if it's going to put you in danger. Okay, so we want to talk about this within the context of being safe. So first, we want to define what coming out means to you. What are you hoping to address by coming out to your family, by telling them that you don't believe in a God? Do you feel like you're being dishonest with yourself by not being open? You want to think about, how is this going to affect your relationship with your family members? How do you want things to be? How do you want things to change? How will it affect your day-to-day life? So number 1, define what coming out is going to mean, what you're hoping to accomplish. 2, focus on yourself. Okay, so if you're an atheist and your family might have a problem with that, presumably they are religious, and so this might not be the best time to start digging into their religion. Remember that you're speaking truth to who you are, and you're not necessarily trying to change anyone else's mind on their beliefs. You just want to maybe change the way that they perceive you. And so keep the focus on yourself. Use I statements. Number 3, in general, sooner is better. And the main reason for that is that you can plan it out. We also often hear, in fact, I think Matt Dillahunty talks about how he was outed by a family member who saw he was on the show. And so it kind of fell into his lap. And that happens fairly often, I think. People discover that you're an atheist and then kind of out you, right? And so if you do it sooner rather than later, that allows you to kind of approach it on your own terms. Obviously, of course, though, you don't want to rush it. You don't want to, do anything before you're ready. But keep that in mind. It's easy to want to put off. And I know that I had a moment with my family when I sat them down and my wife and I told them that we didn't believe in a God, and it was nice to be able to do it on our own terms. And that leads us to the fourth point here. Plan things out, plan it out. Think about what you want to say. Bounce your ideas off friends, maybe even practice it in a mirror. Talk, practice what you're going to say in the mirror. Select a location so that everybody can speak comfortably. It might feel safer to do it in a public place because maybe your family would be less likely to make a big stink about it, but it's really not fair to them. You want to allow them a chance to emotionally process what you're talking about and to speak freely. And so plan things out. Step 5, pay attention to the relationship first. Assuming, right, we're presuming here that you're trying to preserve the relationship. If that were not a goal that you had, then you could just say, fuck it. I don't think whatever you want. I'm going to go over here. And so if we're presuming that you're trying to maintain that relationship and maybe even improve it, keep the focus on that. Talk about what you want to change about the relationship. Things have been one way with us. I would like things to be a different way. Is that possible? Can we do that? Who you are is not changing. You're just asking that they have this part of you respected. Okay, that's an important thing to note too. I'm not changing. I'm not telling you that I'm turning into an atheist. I'm here to tell you that I am an atheist. I already am. So I'm not any different than I was yesterday. And so I just want you to respect that part of me. I want you to respect my right to make my own decisions and to have my own beliefs, just like I'll respect yours. Step 6, prepare for confrontation. Duking it out is not necessarily your goal, but sometimes it turns out that way. So just be ready for that. Depending on what your goals are on your relationship with your family, confrontation can be beneficial or destructive. And I know we're running short on time. I just got 2 more points here. 7, be confident. This was from Christina's book here. When people you care about act as if you've wounded them by not believing in God and by telling them about it, it can be painful to deal with. If people get upset when you tell them you're an atheist, you can express compassion for their upsetness or for their issues with it, but you don't have to accept responsibility about that. It's not you didn't derive this situation just so that you could nail them. And the last thing, be the bigger person. Okay. Remember your goals. Okay. You want to change your life. You want to change your relationship. You want to change the way that you're perceived. If it gets nasty, just, there can be benefit of just letting things roll off your back. That's not to say you need to put up with abuse, but, don't throw the gloves off too soon. And then I'll just have one last bit from the article, and then I'll pass it off to Richard next here. Finally, and this is from the article. Finally, if you're coming out as an atheist and anticipate a bad reaction, be sure to establish a supportive community first. Friends, selected family members, online, and so on. If your coming out doesn't go as planned, take stock in the fact that you made an important decision to be true to yourself. That counts for a lot. All right. You've heard enough from me. Richard, what do you got to say about this?
Yeah, I'm a lifelong atheist, so I've not had any experience personally of coming out of religion. In fact, I would say that of the close people around me, I've had more experience of people going into religion than coming out of it. But I have lots of these conversations, and I've had lots of these conversations for many, many years with people who have come out of religion. And, they were all really, really great points. I think first and foremost in any of these situations, the 2 of those points really stood out, and that is make sure you're safe and you're going to be safe. Don't come out to those around you if it's going to put you in any danger at all. And secondly, do it for you and be yourself and own yourself. It is for you. You don't have to kind of, and this may seem counterintuitive considering what I've just said, but you don't have to live a lie. But there's a difference. And I think this is important because the subtleties are sometimes missed. There's a difference between living a lie and not saying something to keep yourself safe. You can still be true to yourself without letting those know around you that you are something that may put you in danger. And I think that's a small thing. It seems a small thing, but I think it's very important to know that you can still be true to yourself. And there are very importantly, there are communities out there. There are communities out there. And the ACA is a fantastic one. We've got a Discord, and we've got the Facebook fan run groups, and you can go there and you can find community. If you don't want your friends and relations on Facebook to find out, there's a private fan run group where you can make posts in there, and people won't see those posts if you don't want them to. There are communities out there, and you don't have to do this alone. There are other people there from many, many different perspectives. If you want to talk about, to other ex-theists about the best way to come out if you're not quite there, there's people who are there who you can do that with. If you'd like to talk to someone who's a lifelong atheist like me, then there's people there. There's a whole range of people, but make sure you are safe. And that is, I cannot emphasize that enough. Kelly, what you got for us?
A couple of things. I'm in the same boat as you. I never really had a problem coming out. I was afraid that something like what Scott had mentioned would happen to me, that my mother would see me doing something like this. So about a year ago, I sat down with her. I told her what was happening. And surprisingly, she told me that she had become an atheist too over the ensuing years. So wow. Yeah, it really threw me back. It was really actually pretty cool. But I want to make sure everybody knows there's nothing that says you have to come out as an atheist. I was an atheist for 35 years and never talked about it with anybody. And I never felt like I was I never felt like I was lying to anybody. I never felt like I was being untruthful. But to me, it just didn't seem like it was that important. So I never really discussed it with anybody, and nobody really knew it. I finally did come out during a club meeting, a rock club meeting of all things, a rock and jump club meeting, only because there was an evangelical there who was really bad talking atheists and making him out to be the devil. And I wanted to show him that we're not the devil. And it was somebody that I had already known very well. And yeah, right. There you go. And so I think it went a long way for him to realize that here was I, this person who definitely was not the devil, and I was an atheist too. It really went a long way to showing people that atheists can be normal people. So yeah, I just want to make sure that people know there's nothing that says you have to come out. If you are, though, this article was great. It had a lot of really good advice in it, so much so that I'm going to use it as part of my research for an episode of Speak Your Truth in the future. So
cool.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's nice. Okay, I was going to say that Scott wasn't making a great job at cheering me up, because for me it's still very depressing that we live in a society where being an atheist is seen as something negative, something bad, and it's such a touchy subject that we have to use tricks, and we need these type of things in order to be able to tell our parents, please don't hate me, but I don't believe the same things that you believe. If you have different political views than your parents, you will totally understand the situation. But guys, you have been showing me, and everybody actually showing everybody and talking about the positive things about this. And it is amazing that nowadays we have something that years ago we didn't have. personal story, I'm the only atheist that I know, and if I try to talk about religion with other people, they would get angry and upset. So finding a community, it was something amazing. That's why I started recently a community in Spanish as well, because I don't know, or I haven't seen. Well, now now that I'm here, I have met a lot of different communities, but before I never saw any. And knowing that now we do have communities, now you can say, hey, I don't believe, and here on the internet there are thousands of people able to listen to us, talk to us, hear what we have to say, answer our questions, or even people who are just doubting their religion, so they can ask, hey, so you don't believe, why don't you believe, what do you think about this, and then we have answers to that. I think those are awesome things, and you really gave a very positive way of talking, Richard, especially you, about the community that we have and how we can interact with others. So
Those are honestly the best conversations, the ones with people, because the majority of conversations you have with theists in these communities tend to be a bit snarky from both sides, but those are the best conversations and the best calls to our shows as well, where someone is genuinely interested, where someone's maybe not come across atheism before, they've grown up in a community where it's not even been a thing on the radar, and they've been browsing the internet and they've come across this thing called atheism, and it's got the kind of ball rolling in the mind, and they just want to learn more about it, and they start having these conversations with just a genuine interest to want to learn, and it's from those little seeds that mighty forests grow. And I think that you can see that in many different atheist communities. You can see them popping up, even in Britain, where it's like everybody's kind of atheist by default, even the religious people. So it's kind of like nobody talks about religion here unless you have to be a real like kind of door knocker to talk about religion in Britain, because nobody cares. You go to work. I work with a lot of Muslims, I work with a lot of Christians, and nobody talks about it. Nobody tries to sell you on it, because nobody cares about it here. But even here, there are atheist communities, that you can join if you want to, if you're passionate about it, and it's fantastic just to see these little. It's throughout the world, a little group in Australia, a little group in Britain, groups in America, and they all come together on the internet, and that's where we learn, and that's where these people who are wanting to come out of the closet and let everybody know that let the families know they are atheists. It's those communities that give them the presence and the confidence to do that if they want to do that, and I think it's a fantastic thing.
I think we would be remiss too if we didn't mention that there's a lot of people who call into Talk Heathen and Atheist Experience that talk about this. What kind of advice can you give me when I come out? And there is a lot of great advice there. If you go back and look at some of the archive shows, some of the old shows on YouTube, and there's a lot of really good advice that you could pick up there. So if you are coming out to your parents, I would suggest that not only read this article, but also look back at some of these old shows and pick up some of the advice off of them too.
Definitely. It's really interesting as an atheist to hear other atheists' stories. I mean, it's like Teo was saying, it's easy to feel isolated. He said he didn't feel like he knew any other atheists. And so, you can hear that other people are experiencing things and are going through some of the same things that you're feeling, even exactly while you're feeling alone and isolated. You can see, oh, there's somebody else over there who's feeling isolated and alone in exactly the same way I am. Hey, wait a minute, we're kind of in the same boat. And so coming out, whether for some, there's going to be a huge spectrum of different approaches and different results, and everybody has their own way, and so the more we know about how other people interact with it and deal with that, we can bounce our ideas off each other, and so the idea though here is that we can take steps to improve our lives. You know, it's not like we're just kind of stuck in this cubby hole of being an atheist and then, you know, well, I guess, you know, people are just going to hate us or whatever, you know, however you feel. Maybe I'm the only one in my town who's an atheist or whatever. How many times have we had callers call in and say, oh, I'm the only one in such and such a town that's an atheist. And then the host says, oh, have you tried these 3 atheist organizations that are just down the street from you? I mean, you feel like you're alone, but we're all alone together. I guess I'm trying to say. That sounds kind of weird, but I kind of feel that way. I was fortunate enough to have my wife with me when we decided to talk to my parents. We actually had this similar conversation with her parents, but it was when we had kids, and we were looking ahead, and we thought, well, there might be some issues with churches and stuff, and what are we going to do with the kids and that kind of thing. And so we wanted to make sure that we were clear. We wanted to make sure that the relationship between our children and their grandparents would develop in such a way that we're comfortable with. And so that's what really motivated us. And it wasn't the easiest conversation in the world I've had with my parents, but it wasn't the hardest conversation either. It actually, it turned out pretty good. I mean, I felt like our relationship was able to develop, you know, up until that point. I think there was a lot of don't ask, don't tell going on, kind of a thing. You know, they kind of knew that we didn't really believe in God, but I think that they were still able to convince themselves, well, maybe not. They never actually said it, so maybe that's just my impression. But then once we said it, we were like, okay, that's out. But and to my surprise, both of my family and my wife's family, all of whom are religious and also fairly conservative in their religious views, were actually fairly receptive. I mean, there's resistance there. They think what we're doing is wrong, but they're respectful of our right and ability to make that choice for ourselves and for our children. And so I was hesitant. I wasn't really sure. We were fortunate enough not to be in any kind of situation where we could be harmed or where we would lose our livelihood or the roof above our heads or anything like that. But it was a positive experience. And, you know, I got to think that there's got to be somebody out there that's in my exact same situation. There's got to be somebody that's in Richard's exact same situation, and Kelly's and Teo's. And, you know, they're just hearing people talk about living a person's life can be very reassuring. It can be very validating. And it can encourage you to make these positive choices. And Teo, I don't know if I was able to cheer you up enough after that last article, but just keep, you know, that's what I would say is, you know, by sharing your story, not only are you kind of putting yourself out there, but you're also making it a little bit easier for the next person, you know, a little bit, you know, they'll feel a little bit less lonesome. Teo, when you said nobody you knew was an atheist, well, now everybody that you know knows at least one atheist, right? So we're improving things with, you know, these slight improvements over time. I mean, boy, is this an evolution argument? I think we're heading down that way. We're evolving the society into a positive. So I've said enough, and so I'll let you kind of wrap things up.
We are out of time, so thank you so much, guys. With this, we are done.